All right, what is going on, everybody? Happy holidays. You know, it's not a holiday just yet. Or actually, I don't want to say it's a holiday, but it's a good day. Who here also knows that today is D Day? See, here's what's happening. The further along we get, we start forgetting certain things. All right, so D Day, the invasion of Normandy, was today. So if you didn't know that, now you do. Find somebody who knows somebody to tell somebody about what's going on right here. If you like it, let me know. Share it if you do, and subscribe if this is what you're looking for. As always, folks, welcome to a value conversation, Gen X spoken word. But before we go any further, let me go ahead and bring up another council member here. To the K's. Top Cat, how you doing, sir?
Okay, brother, how you doing?
Doing fine. We had a little conversation in the background, folks, who just talking about other content creators out here who got their own shows who more or less talk and move in the same type of fashion we do. So that's something to look for because I'm trying to gather more folks for larger panels. So the idea here, as I was telling Top Cat, just as a reminder to people, is that this platform that I put together is for us seasoned folks to have our conversations. But that doesn't mean any and all conversations that we have will be specifically for us. More say it's a preparatory type of conversation to include also memory or breadcrumbs that we want to leave for the generations coming behind us. Because we know that these cats are in an absolute mess right about now.
Yeah.
Even though they may not accept a lot of what we're telling them, the idea is that when they get to a point, when they do, at least they have some place they can go to find it. So never think because of a topic we're discussing is something that doesn't truly pertain to you. It may pertain to someone that you know, sons, daughters, nieces, nephews, maybe younger cousins, older cousins, who know. But the information is always going to be there to whereas if it's not specifically geared towards you, it doesn't mean it might not be something that pertains to anybody else. So before we go any further, the name of today's show, Choices Made in Relationships Are Consequences Owned. Too many times I see the conversation floating around about, well, you chose him. Well, that was your choice. Well, girl, that's what you wanted. But no one ever gets back to looking at the reason why they made the choice they did. We're talking about building foundations. That's where it all starts out here. So you have to understand that if you like what you see, then you get what you choose. All right. Value has no worth unless it's agreed upon because you get what you qualify for. Before we kick off the music selection, Top Cat, would you like to add anything, sir?
No, sir, go ahead. You're doing good.
All right. So the choice we have for tonight is going to be Samuel. So you like what you see? Fair use, fair use. Dig it. Who remembers this? All right, fair use, fair use.
Every day now, I can feel you watching me. I'm afar, and you've been leaving those love letters on my car every day. So now I wonder why you're so into me in such a way that you've got to take your spare time to chase after me. What a shame. So you like what you see. Hey, you better put a hold on me. So you like what you see, girl. You better put a hold on me. The problem, baby,
Fair use, fair
I'm not
use.
used to
Yeah.
girls too shy to talk to me.
Still sounds good.
I've been hearing that James Brown in the background. I know some of that. That piano, that comes from James Brown.
Yes, it does. Salute to the sample.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So as I said here, TC, choices made in relationships are consequences owned. Now, I know there may be a few people who might be joining us, but as always, as we have to say here, anyone checking this out who's part of the replay gang, thank you for checking it out. By the way, I haven't seen Don in a couple of weeks, so Don, if you haven't catch this, go ahead and let us know how you're doing. So, what are we talking about when we look at consequences? The consequences are going to be pretty much this is the person that you chose, this is the person that you saw. You're now in a 3-month, 3-year, 10, 15-year relationship. And now you're at the point where you're saying, I don't know how this happens. Of course you do. When we get in relationships, it's not as if we don't see the person that we're with or we don't see the person for who they are. We look at them thinking that maybe they might change. Oh, hey, look, there's Alicia. Evening. Lisa, you want to come up here or you're going to sit in the clouds tonight?
Yeah, come on up.
Last time. Come on up.
Yeah,
you coming up? Let's see what she gives this time. I've already told her that she's going to run one of these panels here. I'm not going to put her in the middle of it just yet.
That's right.
Folks, I'll let you know right now, Alicia, one of these days, she's going to run a panel.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes, I told her she's got her own little thing down here. But before she does, she and I are going to go through a couple of things here and there just to make sure she's ready to do that, because she does more of a game show. But I'm thinking she is at a point to where a lot of the information we discuss, she'd be great to pass this on, but also, as I've said before, provide us some information as well. Oh, here we go. About to tangle some hair. Yours or your daughter's?
What?
All right, so nonetheless, she's gonna skate out on us again tonight. Okay, no problem. You can't run forever, all right? And also a shout out to Chicago here. He's got some things he's doing this weekend before he heads out, so he may not be joining us again tonight. He's got to make sure he gets the, what did he say, TC, the wife bank. Make sure that he puts in his time and credits. Make sure he does. So, understood. Oh, look at her. She said mine. Oh, by the way, just a minute, folks. At TC, I'll be right back.
Go ahead.
So you know everybody's got their hats. So I wanted to make sure that also we got ours for Alicia as well. So she made the joke, 3 OGs and a lady. So Alicia, because she's got that pompadour on top of her head, here is your cap. Now I've already sent pictures out here to the council, but folks, I like to make sure that everybody's included. Generation Y.
There you go.
Yes, sir. So understand here, 3 OGs and the lady. Detangling her hair. Oh, here she is again. Yes, so girl, whenever you get around here, here's your hat. So make sure that we've got this air of inclusion so everybody gets in. Yeah. As I said before, the council of OGs, old school gents with old school guidance, but we've got a +1, so therefore you can also refer to us as 3 OGs and a lady. All right. Oh, and keep in mind now, officially, she is under our protection. So understand that if you're rolling out on the internet, she is not by herself. Just because you don't see us doesn't mean that we're not there.
Got that right.
So going into it, as I said here, the concept here is whatever choices we make, we have to reconcile. Now we can agree on that, right, DC?
Absolutely.
So I'd like tell people that there's always a process that gets us there. There's a building block or pretty much the foundation that everyone should work from. Because if the foundation is not there, what's going to happen? You can't
Hmm.
build everything from the top down. It's like trying to build an airplane while it's in flight. It's not going to happen. Now, it's a great metaphor, but still, you've got to have some foundational aspects. So, as I said before, let's try and keep it tight, move it in. I'm going to try and inject a lot of stuff that we haven't discussed. We must have at least a 10 or 15 second delay. But you are very welcome.
Hmm.
Again, if you be up here, it can't be a thing of us just being not being sideways, but just being casual or cavalier, because I want this to be a council as well as a group. And if we're going to be a group, there's also this thing of camaraderie and cohesion. So that's what I want to make sure that's the door to, Lisa. So understand that you have a spot here with us. Again, like I said, we'll give you an age waiver. Being that you're under 50, but we'll give you an age waiver nonetheless. But look at this as you being a part of the process that we're trying to put in place for others, to include ourselves. All right. So, like I said, Alicia, consider this as us telling you you are protected.
Yep.
All right. So, as far as the foundation, Mr. Married for a good long time. If you could, TC, what can you tell us about a foundation that you have built with Mrs. OG?
I think when first of all, when we met one another, I already had a job, so that was one thing. So I knew I was pretty cool there, and everything else, I already had myself together, meaning mentally, physically, a character, and everything. Everything was together. You know, I didn't have to be scrambling, and I didn't have to do all that. You know, hey, I got to get myself together. No, I was prepared before I come into the situation with Mrs. OG. So I knew what was going on before I even got with her. That I knew I had to have myself on stable ground before I got into this relationship. Because mindful, she already had a job, but it wasn't about all that. It was about me making sure myself was together. You know, after I found out what type of woman she was like, and I'm like, I can't mess this up. So, you know, I had to come correct, so to speak. So my foundation was good, and I had everything covered. You know what I mean? In other words, other relationships, I was done with all that stuff, so I didn't have to be going back cleaning up that mess. I made sure all that mess is cleaned up before we even got together. And I think that's where some people fall short at. They don't clean up the mess before they want to get into another relationship. And then the relationship they want to get into, that goes sour because they haven't cleaned up the mess that they had prior. So that's when I say make sure your foundation is sound before you move on to someone else.
Agreed. Can you hear me, Top Cat?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. Alicia says that she's getting some feedback here. I'm surprised. Or at least an echo. I don't know how bad it is, but let me do this. Let me turn the music down a little bit more in the background. All right. So going with what you said here, definitely I do agree that the foundations, these finances, you got to have that right. That's one of the first things, because you don't want to be in a relationship where you're having a back and back type of situation where you have emotional aspects of the foundation that you still got to lay down, but then you have the financial aspects. So that all comes to play here. So let's say if the cost, let's say if the financial aspect is on the first, let's look at the emotional aspect. Now, I generally tell people that you're looking at, let's say, complimentary styles. Now, I've made statements like this across different amounts of shows, and I know you've been there hearing that when I've made this, but I'm thinking that in this one particular show, I want to try and cover as many of those as possible. So therefore, it's not sporadic and people are jumping through different shows trying to get bits and pieces here. But one thing I'll say right off the bat is that you have to have a complimentary style. People have got to compliment each other. Now, I
Right.
know there's a conversation of, opposites attract. Remember that song by, was it Paula Abdul, Two Steps Forward, Two Steps Back? We
Yeah.
get, or we're good together because opposites attract. That is a popular concept. It may attract in the beginning, but somewhere along the way, if we aren't complimenting each other, then there needs to be a level of compromise. Now, compromise is not a bad thing, but I don't want to get too far ahead, but I'll explain that part in a moment. But there comes a certain process that we go through. So the first thing is a complementary style. So as always, I'll say that if she likes to cook, he likes to eat, it works out. If
Mhm.
she likes to read and give guidance, he likes to listen to guidance that someone knows, it works out. If he likes to be in charge, she likes to be in charge, then that's where we have problems because now we're going to have constant headbutting. So, what do we do to get around that headbutting? If we're part of that relationship, we have to recognize that someone is going to have to know when to back away for a minute or again, compromise and let whose ever knowledge fits the situation be the one that drives.
Right.
So, in that particular sense, on complementary styles, what would you add to that? Do you look at you and Mrs. OG as being complementary style, or should I say, because you've been married so long, there's no question that you guys understand the importance of complementary styles?
Oh, absolutely. We compliment one another. Like I said, it's funny because we've been together so many years that she can look at me and tell something's wrong, and I can look at her and I know something's wrong, and I'll go ask her, But it, and I don't understand why some men can't see these things. And if you're tuned in, and you know what I mean by tuned in, if you're locked into that woman that you're with, you ought to know that. You could tell how they act if you've been with them long enough, how they act, how they talk, all these things that my ears are trained for all that, and my eyes pick up certain things. And yeah, I do that all the time. If I see her with her head down or something, I'm like, what's the matter with you? So it's just one of them things. So if you're not used to seeing that, then I'm going to ask. And she does the same thing with me. So it's sort of, it's not like nobody's fighting for no authority in this house. After 22 years, if she knows I'm right on something, she knows to back down. She won't fight me on that, you know. And the same thing with her. If I don't think she's right, I just say okay, and that's the way it goes. And there's no argument or nothing. There ain't me trying to. I'm the boss. I'm gonna nah. I'm not. I'm not about all that because all that does is cause a lot of conflict that you don't really need. So there's peace here, and there is peace in this house, and I love peace, and there ain't nothing but peace here. So I'm really blessed and happy that I found a woman like her. Yeah.
The piece that you're talking about goes into the next part that I should say you and I have discussed before. Again, you've heard this many times. I'm not sure who's going to be here tonight or who may cast this on a replay, but one of the things we talk about in peace that comes from the aspect of what we look for her to bring to the relationship. So again, here's the next stage where we look at what are each parties of the relationship responsible for. So, from the perspective of a man looking towards a woman, what is it that he expects or would hope to see in her? Femininity, fitness, her being friendly, fertility depending on her age, cooperation, agreeable, discretion, discernment, nurturing, and we also, like you just said, peace. Those are key things as men when we look at that. So the funny thing is that if we're talking about this particular aspects of what we're discussing here, if we're listening to certain women, notice we can't put all women together in this, but if we're listening to certain women, we're here to think about what about independence? No, what about her issue, her character? What about her getting the bag? What about her education? No, wait, whoa, time out, time out, time out. You asked, or should I say, this is what we as men will be looking for, the things that are intrinsic. Now, sure enough, character comes in that, but character comes down the road after you establish some things that are basic fundamentals. And I'll leave it right there. What's your thought on that? And if you need me to, Top Cat, I'll repeat it again.
No, I mean, I think character. I think you're right, but I think where a lot of men make mistakes at is I said this earlier. I mentioned this earlier about they always look at the outside, not the inside. That's like buying a car, looking at a car, and because the car looks good on the outside, don't necessarily mean it's gonna run good. Ain't gonna give you no problems. You gotta take it for a test ride. You gotta see if you like it. You gotta check it out. Do your research. It's the same thing as dating. You have to do your research. You gotta watch. You gotta observe and see how she moves. And that in turn tells you if you're gonna get any peace. Y'all know that. So
That
that's how I pretty much went about all my relationships. I watched to see how they moved, what type of character, how they spoke, and all that. And money never come into it about where they had money and all that stuff. But I was just looking at certain, certain the way they carry themselves. There has to be something that stuck out for me to notice her, and then to put my time in wanting to know her. So it had to be something there that piqued my interest and for me to, pursue her.
Excellent. So going back into that and then keeping into it, character is one of those things that comes into it. But initially, like you said, it's the intrinsic things, pretty much what I'm outlining here. So I'll go ahead and give the list here one more time, just in case you had some folks join who missed it. I will also say that these perspectives that men might be looking for in women, just because you hear it in one particular platform, such as let's say the manosphere, the red pill, or blue, pink, green, orange pill, whatever. These are commonalities that people should be able to agree on. If not, then don't. Use what is useful, discard what isn't. So again, what are some of the things that men would be looking for in women? And this is not women wanting to give it to men. Well, this is what you should take. This is what you should be looking for. This is what we as men will look for, because in this instance, we're the consumers, looking for friendliness, fitness. We're looking to be feminine, also fertile, depending upon our age, cooperation, agreeable, discretion, discernment, nurturing, as well as bringing peace. Now, the opposite of that, as men, we have to be able to provide something that women would be looking for as well. So, what is it that a man should have ready to provide to her in the exchange of what she offers? So, as men, we should offer the following: we should offer focus, guidance, discipline, direction, stability, security, masculinity, fitness, knowledge, care, and protection. Did you need me to run through that again, TC, or it's pretty much on you right now? You get where I'm coming from.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from.
All right. So, what are your thoughts about that? Is there anything that I may have left out? Because again, we're talking about the foundation that we need to put in place. So, therefore, choices aren't made where consequences are regrettable in the future. What do you think?
No, but you're right. You have to have all them intangibles. I mean, you have to, and that's what a lot of men don't think about. It's always about the opposite. But you got to think about, do you have all these intangibles to be with that woman and to know what that woman wants to see out of you? So I think a lot of women today don't get it. I don't know why. And men have to kind of show that. And if the woman does approach, or if she doesn't approach, either or, but even if you're approaching, you have to have them type of intangibles if you're really looking for something serious, you know. And I think that's a lot of things that are missing today in relationships. They're skipping past all that, and it's always sex was the number one thing. Sex should not be the number one thing. If that's the case, then that's not going to work out too good for you. If that's what you're basing it on right off the bat is sex. And
Situations and
I
entanglements, if that's what you're looking for, will get you in that situation based on what you're talking about right now. Agreed.
yeah. So I never, and this is what I tried to explain before. When I was younger, I never thought about that. You was out there doing what I wanted to do, just like every youngster does. And then at a certain age, it was, I think it was my 30s, it was my cutoff. So if I was really seriously looking for a relationship, I had to make sure I got all that shit out the way and got over that, and then focus on the man I had to be with this woman, you know. So I had to work on myself and make sure I was good, and I had the intangibles that she was looking to me as a man. So I had to make sure of that. And I think if I didn't, I wouldn't be here 22 years because women can see through all that. You know, they can see through that.
If there's anything about us that could be used against us, it will be picked up in those moments of conversation where if we're having the discussion of, no one said, let's put it this way, when you know that you are with that person, when you found that person, you will divulge things, you will let things be known. But that's only if you're willing to accept the fact that I've got to be in it to win it. You
Right.
got to have some skin in the game to expect some type of outcome that comes from that. So we'll move on to the next bit. We'll call this reciprocity. Now, reciprocity again, meaning let's go back to Fridays, puff, puff, give, right? You
Hmm.
got to be able to give what you're also looking to receive. Now, how often do you have that conversation if you're listening to any panels? Even for the little bit that we've talked about right now, about what a man should be able to offer to a woman, what a woman should be able to offer to a man, the aspects of building a foundation. We're talking about complementary styles to include reciprocity. How often do you hear this spoken in other circles? If I can ask you that for a second, Sci-Fi.
I no, I don't hear that. There's a lot of, there's too much vitriol, John, and there is. I'm hearing a lot of vitriol, and this is what I'm noticing. What I'm hearing is there's a communication gap is so wide. Men got to go a long way to shore that up because the way it seems now, these women are so far damaged. It's the way they talk. They're damaged, and it's going to have to take a lot to for them to come to the middle and figure something out. And I don't see that happening. It looks like it's getting worse. To tell you the truth, I could be wrong, you know, because I don't really get around a lot like everybody else does out on these streets. But just from what I'm hearing, they're still going on about, you know, all men ain't, and they shouldn't do that. And I said that before. It's a give and take. You know, you have to give something in return. This is not taken. You have to give something. You know, if they're giving you, then you have to give something. And that's the thing. And it seems like neither one wants to give either way. And that's bad. That's not good.
I see the exact same thing, and that's why I like to be able to pick everyone's minds when they come up here and have a conversation that does not exist around, oh, men are the leaders, or women should be following, or her submission needs to be uh, be held high and utmost in order for her to be able to listen. Now, wait a minute, everything that I'm hearing has that red pill effect that I'm hearing from this. And I've always said before, I've never chosen to be a red pill follower. I don't look at it as being the defining aspect of how we look at relationships right now, because the idea of red pill in the very beginning was the light being shined on everyone. Now, granted, when we look back at it, there was still an aspect of relationships that put men in a negative light, whereas it was always us who was no good, deadbeats.
Yep.
But that was pretty much what happened because there was not pretty much room for male voice to be heard. But the thing I look at it is like opinions. Know when to have your opinion, but also know when to stop having your opinion. So
Okay.
as of right now, we as men, we've been able to have our opinions now, but it's getting to a point where it's starting to get repetitive, where we're beating down on the same concept of,
Mhm.
well, look at how out of control women are. I can agree with that. Now, what I really dislike is we have a conversation with women to whereas they don't agree, but we're looking at the same thing. For example, the clip of where the lady was laughing where her children were effing this and effing that, you be and all this, and she
Yeah.
was not. She was just laughing and going along with it. But the problem I see is that there's way too much of that. That's not to say that we don't have men who may behave like that, but I can't think of any video that I've seen where there's been a father with his sons sitting there talking like that.
Right.
Every word is a curse word or something along those lines. And we look at these behaviors and it becomes dismissive. But if we say anything about it, I don't like the way you said that to me. I don't like your tone. But yet at the same time, you don't see how your tone and your behavior might be a detriment to your female image. The same as with men, how us always want to say, yo, my Igga, what's up, Igga? We're not
Yeah.
saying it's being detriment to our black male image. So I think what I want to do is probably a show where we take a look and see how we look at the worst of what we have, and we always want to put that out on the front street and turn that into virtue. But again, a different show nonetheless. But again, talking about right now, it's key here. Again, the reciprocity, being able to give, being able to get, being able to receive, and we don't see enough of that that's being done. Therefore, we have this contention that you're speaking of. And as much as I don't want to say it's getting worse, I'll say that it seems like it's leveling off, but you still have those spikes here and there.
Mhm.
Whereas it gets back to the thing of, okay, well, does a fat guy deserve to have sex? Or, okay, if he is not a leader who brings, then should you stay? It's almost as if it's this. What was it I said about when Beans and I were having a conversation one day? It's like, okay, you can either drink the rat poison or you can eat the arsenic. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, so
Hmm.
what decision do I make? It's not like one is better than the other. But again, I think that the reciprocity starts coming if you have someone who at least has their own background taken together. Like you're saying, the background, such as your foundation financially. But then we
Hmm.
also have the emotional aspect, which are the intangibles that we're speaking of right now. Oh, hey, look, Rob. Hey, man, is it still T.O.'s birthday party over there with Fatty?
Yeah, they still going there. They got karaoke over there now.
Oh, okay. So I guess Rob may just be dipping his head in here for a quick second or so.
They're not
But
going on. They're like doing karaoke and stuff. That's all.
oh, so is this just open panel, just having a wild night for the
Mm-hmm.
moment?
Terry. Yep.
Okay, cool. So moving into what you're saying here, TC, let's take the next round here. So we've covered complementary styles. We've looked at what men and women should be able to offer to each other. We've looked at the concept of reciprocity. So here's something that I call the CCD principle: communication, compromise, and balance. I normally say balance of power, but the problem is that when you hear power, what do you think happens, Top Cat?
Oh,
When power happens, what do you think happens?
they're going to be a lot of conflict there, you know. And that's the thing I don't really I don't really get into here because I feel who I don't need it. She don't need it. And I think she mentioned that one day about that. She's like, I'm not a type of woman like that. You know, where yeah, I look at I have to be over you for everything or telling you what to do and all that. So there's none of that in here. But I see now, hearing everybody talk, that a lot of these women out here masculine. You know, you could tell what comes out of their mouth that they're masculine, and a lot of them relationships ain't gonna work because somebody got to give a little ground here, and you need to sit down at the table and communicate on the situation. That's what needs to happen. You know.
Agreed. Alicia's got something here. Do you all hear the same type of conversation in places other than social media? I'll answer that one first. And let me put the question back up here. Do you all hear the same type of conversation in places other than social media? So I will say yes. I remember going to a speed dating event maybe about um, 8 or 9 months ago. And I remember sitting at a table and listening to women talk about, well, here's what I bring to the table. And one particular female that I sat across from, she looked like Flavor Flav. From the neck up, looked like Flavor. And I don't know if it was a wig or if she had it flat ironed or something like that. But I'm talking Flavor Flav from the neck up, but Halle Berry from the rest down, from the neck down. I'm like, good Lord, man. But what was throwing me off here was listening to her talking about, well, here's what I've done, here's what I've achieved, and I said to her finally, okay, so from a scale of 1 to 10, how would you view yourself as far as attraction? I mean, of course, you see yourself in a certain light, but how do you see yourself? Because again, she was speaking a lot of the conversations that we hear on social media. Now, this is not to put her down, but this is just what she heard. And so again, keep in mind, like I said, she looked like Flavor Flav. But at the same time, she's talking about, I got a car, I got a house, I got a good job. She's talking about, I believe in God or something like that. And all these things that did not point to, as I asked her, what do you see yourself as being? Oh, by the way, she said on a scale of 1 to 10, she said that she was an 8.
Lord.
Yes, she said she was an 8. Now, let me put this out here. Now, everybody's got their scales, and we all recall the type of scale that Kevin Samuels worked from. 5 is average. You had 6 above average. Couldn't use 7. 8 was pretty. 9 was beautiful, and 10 was gorgeous. But the problem is that you had everyone claiming, well, I'm an 8 or a 9, or I'm a 10, and come on now. 10s don't sit on panels. I'll say 9 to 10s, they don't sit on panels having a discussion, talk about, well, us queens. No, if she is that, again, if she is that level of beauty, she is not going to be on this panel. She's already going to be picked up either by, some big spender or some type of millionaire, escrow type of dude, something along those lines. She's already been found, because if she is that 10, then that means that her beauty. All right, so Top Cat will be back in a little bit here. So anyway, folks, her beauty is what's going to carry her at that moment. Poor lady, she's in for a rude awakening. Yeah. I'm a 2 with extra credit. So seriously, as I'm looking at her, I'm listening to this and I think, okay, so if that's how you figure yourself as being, the next question is, what type of improvements can be made? But rather than have that conversation, I just go right in and say to her, okay, so if you look at yourself as being an 8, who validated that? She said, well, I did, because of the things that I mentioned that I have. I said, okay, so that means that you were sitting at home in your apartment by yourself and you just figured that you were an 8, right? Now she's looking at me now. I know there's going to be some saltiness. I'm good for it though. Okay, so what? Yeah, I said it. But as I said to her, the mirror is going to be your best friend, but it can also be your worst enemy. It does not care about your hopes, your dreams, or your aspirations. However, when we look in the mirror, what we see is what we get. There's no toasting, there's no fixing up, there's no trying to butter a person up, trying to sugarcoat anything. What's there is there. But because she saw herself in a certain way, she was okay with it. She felt that, okay, if I see myself as an 8, everybody else should. Okay, no, not at all. I'm looking at her and I'm thinking, okay, an adjustable 5, 5.5. Again, you don't have to take my word for it, because again, on a scale of 1 to 10, I look at myself as being a 6, no higher. Absolutely not. There would be some people who would even argue about, well, what makes you a 6? Well, as I said to Top Cat, I think Alicia may have been on the panel one night, we talked about the average dates that people go on. So let's say we're talking about an average individual. Let's say just straight down the middle. Even an average person can go out on a date. Now, of course, when they do go out on a date, it may not be 2 or 3 times a week, or even 5 times a month. The average person who may not be the most attractive, not particularly ugly, but they're not aggressive in pursuing dates either. They may themselves end up either being asked out, or it may take them forever to work up the nerve to ask somebody out. If it's a guy, even a girl sometimes. And when they do ask, it is such a pain for them to do it. It's like pulling teeth. So let's say that your average person goes on a date once every 2 months. So you're talking about after 10 months, they've only gone out with someone 5 times in a year. So that to me is what I would call average. Then you have 6, which is slightly above average. So this person may go out on a date with someone, we'll say once a week. All right. So we'll say maybe once every other week. So this person at the end of a year, they've gone out maybe 10 times, but it does vary depending on aggression. So do you see where I'm going with this? The higher the person's rating, the more it reflects in their time being out with somebody else. So I look at it from a perspective of 5 being average, 6 being above average, which is, we'll say, attractive. So 5 is average, 6 is attractive, 7 is pretty / cute. All right. 8 is pretty, or should I say, excuse me, beautiful. 8 is beautiful. 9 is gorgeous, and 10 is an extraordinary beauty. So I'll say it again. 5 is average, 6 is attractive, 7 is pretty / cute, 8 is beautiful, 9 is gorgeous, and 10 is an extraordinary beauty. That's the scale that I look at. So if I ever hear a woman say that she is a 10, then she had better be something that is on Mount Olympus. You had better be something that when you walk in the room, it starts to shine. You have body parts that you throw up in the air and it turns to sunshine. So we have to be clear about how we gauge people when we listen to folks make these type of statements. But to bring it back in, that's just an aspect of where we are if we're building any type of foundation of relationship. We have to be honest about each other. What is it that we both see? Value. Value has no worth unless it's agreed upon. So for her to call herself an 8 means that somebody else would need to agree to that. And being that I was sitting on the other side of that table, just to bring the story back together, she wasn't an 8. I think I even recall making a statement that, well, I didn't say she wasn't an 8, but I said, so is that your final statement? And right then and there, that's when the bell rang, like ding. So it was time for me to go ahead and move on to the next table. Yeah, Top Cat. I don't know how much, but basically at the end of the story here, when she said she was an 8, I said, so is that the final thing you're sticking with? Now, here's something cool. I went to dinner over in Virginia Beach Square. Now, Alicia knows where this is also. And you have Ruth Chris down there.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sitting at the bar in Ruth Chris. I ordered something to eat, and I hear this couple come in. He was white, she was black. And I look over, don't think anything of it. But I look over one more time as I'm ordering my drink from the bar, and it's her.
Oh my goodness.
Ooh, and it's same thing. She's got whatever this wig, whatever flat press is going on, and there's the same Flavor Flav dude. It's still the same thing here. And the white guy she's with is an older guy. So I don't know if she's out here finessing or if he's just having one is like, you know what, I can look past that. Yeah, I don't know but she saw me. I used to work at Bravo. I don't even know what it is, but what's Bravo, girl? But she saw me look over there and she went to this old sourpuss expression. But again, I just didn't value her the way that she valued herself. Doesn't mean that she didn't have that value. She just doesn't have it with me.
Right.
But again, these self-appointed 8s, something about it. But getting on track, communication, compromise, balance of power. I believe that's what we were talking about initially. So as I
Mhm.
call it, B. So I think I mentioned this the other night. Whereas if you look at a table, right, in most senses, the amount of legs it takes to keep a table standing up, bare minimum, is Italian cuisine on the booth, Chris. Okay, I didn't know. I never heard of except the Bravo Network. But Marcus, what's going on, man? You just getting the second to get away from T.O.'s over there with Fatty, or are you over there with Camp right about now? Hello, good people in the chat. Where
What's
there's
up,
only
Marcus?
hey, always glad to have you stop by, Marcus. So communication. That is one of the legs of the table. As I said before, the minimum amount of legs it takes for a table to stand up is 3. Now, physically, yes. Metaphorically, you can still keep things going on here. But we're just going to look at it from the standpoint of the table just being a metaphor for support, right? So if we're talking about it from a metaphorical sense, not a physical sense, if I lose one of these legs, I can still keep everything floating. I can still keep the table right. But you don't want to lose any more than one leg from this metaphorical table, which is the foundation of a relationship, for too long.
Right.
Reason being that once you do that, you're going to put the stability of the relationship in jeopardy. So when we talk communication, we've got to be able to speak to each other. There can't be this thing of when you first meet, well, you should have known. How am I supposed to know? I've only known you for X amount of time. Let's
Right.
say 5, 6 months. It's been 6 months. You don't know this? No, I don't know this. You don't live here. I don't live with you per se. And you may only see each other 2 or 3 times a week, maybe on the weekends. Oh, by the way, we're getting the shout outs here. Thanks again, Marcus, for the shout outs to folks in the panel. But we may not be living together. And this is one thing I'll say when I was younger. I used to be a fan of folks living together before they got married, right?
Right.
But you'd have this thing where it would be an extended amount of time where they're living together for 2, 3, 4 years, and they haven't gotten married yet, but for whatever reason, you know that a relationship exists, but the communication is still bad. That's something I've never been able to figure out. How is it that people can spend so much, thanks, Marcus. How can people spend so much time together and still not figure out certain aspects about each other and the communication still be bad? It doesn't make any sense. What's your thought on that, TC?
That's because he's too busy communicating with somebody else, not taking time to communicate with the one you're with. And that's what I said about
Uh-oh.
you got to leave. You got to leave whatever's in the past out there and focus on what the present is. And that a lot of times that's what happens is somebody else has got his attention, so you're not always locked in on both of you. And I like that. I like when I was younger, I was like that. But like I said before, I wasn't looking to just fall in love. I was just looking to do my thing and keep going. I wasn't looking for that. But you're exactly right. It does take that communication. Now, if you're really into that woman, I think you need to sit down and talk about each other. What is it that you see in each other? Learn about one another. And you don't directly have to go there because 9 times out of 10, they'll tell you that if you start up the conversation and let the conversation flow. And I always said it's the gift of gab. You gotta know how to talk. That's what God gave you a mouth for and gave you a brain. You have to know how to talk. And every man should have the gift of gab, but know what to say, what not to say. All these things a man should have in his arsenal. You know, you gotta have your arsenal. You gotta have that.
All I have is persuasion. I think I've mentioned that before. As a man, I think I've said it before. As a man, I can't make you, girl, give me what you got. All I can do is convince you why you should. because sales. And the only thing I have at my disposal is persuasion. But at the end of this all, we both make a choice. Matter of fact, let me do this. Let me go ahead and shut the music down for a second. And I've got a few videos here that I want everyone to take a look at. All right, so fair use, fair use. We put that out there first and foremost. Share screen. And you know what, let me do this because I hate trying to do this inside of Firefox. Bear with me. What I want to do is open this up. See if I can put this in another browser. So I hate having to hunt for stuff here.
I know.
Tell you what, just a second. Let me go ahead and switch the browsers here for a second, because obviously the way that I'm trying to do this right now in Firefox, you can't really see what you're shooting for. So I'll make it easier. There we go.
It's getting so anymore.
Go ahead, Taka. What were you saying?
It's getting so anymore that the relationships in 2025 is like like the president trying to sit down at the table with these other countries trying to come to some type of agreement. That's what it's like.
We're trying to come to an agreement.
Yeah, you know, everybody's so far apart, you know what I'm saying? And that's the way some of these relationships are today, because ain't nobody communicating. Nobody wants to. It's like you gotta. It's like they're forced. You're not forced to give up anything. It's about compromise. It's in communication. That's what it's about. Then you can come to some type of middle ground. But some people seem like they don't want to do that.
Now, the middle ground is where the problem is, because if I give up ground, that means that someone has power over me. And I think that's the biggest issue that I see here when you try and have that conversation. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, no, you're not going to control me. Oh, no, I'm not going to allow that. You're not going to have any power over me. I'm not going to be any less than. So the feeling of being less than is what starts to ruin everything. Mm-hmm. Because this person believes that, well, if I agree to this, that means that you are now the person who's always going to have control. Said, no, that's not the case. That's not what I'm saying. Said, no. What else would it be then? Said, no, that is not at all what we're talking about. We're talking about, again, reciprocity. Mm-hmm. We're also talking about being able to say that I may not be saying everything the right way right now, but it doesn't mean that what I say goes. You have a voice too. And that's what people tend to forget sometimes in a relationship, is that when they're so busy acquiescing to someone else all the time, you are more or less letting this person know that I can do this whenever I want. I don't have to worry about meeting you halfway, because whatever I say, you will do. Or whatever you do or whatever you want, I will do, if we switch it around. So it's again of reciprocity. And you can't be afraid to open your mouth in a relationship, because it's two people there. Right? So it's not always about one person. Everybody should be able to say something, because you are just as important as the other person. So go ahead, if you could, give me your response to that before I key this up here, TC. Do you believe that it's incumbent upon both people in a relationship to make their needs known while not being, for lack of a better word, jerks about it?
Absolutely. You know, I always said that it's the way that you say it and the way you explain it to them. That's what they're listening for. That it's like the way you say it can trigger.
Oh, we're talking tone now, right?
Yes, exactly. So if you're sitting down and you're trying to iron something out, make sure you're using the proper tone where it don't seem like you want to be superior over her. So you got to leave some room there for a response. What I heard, because you know how some women they listen and then they don't listen. They only listen to certain things. There's got to be certain words that trigger them. So now you got to pick the right words to tell them. I don't know how it is now, but I'm saying back then it was different. It was a lot of listening going on, and they would just listen, and you go ahead and talk, and they would talk. It wasn't cutting one another off. It's just either I understand or I don't understand, and he just broke it down without bickering or arguing. Today it's different. You can't do that because as soon as they hear something come out of your mouth a certain type of way, they want to lash out. You know.
Oh yeah, you're into it right off the bat. It's a thing of active and passive listening for the most part,
Yep.
and that's something that I will say right now that I've always. All right, you got an echo. At least that's what Alicia is saying. You're on your computer or on your phone, TC?
Yeah, I'm on my computer. So
Okay,
that's an
not sure.
echo.
Okay, she said that it's gone now.
Oh, all right.
But nonetheless, yeah, it's the tone. I think the tone policing. I see that come up every now and then, but it's the thing about the tone
Mm-hmm.
and also how you said it. But I could be saying something like, "Hey, wait a minute, what you are doing doesn't benefit us." That could be me talking to guys about why is it always every other word igga igga and mofo, or if you talk to the ladies, how is it that you guys are sitting here talking about this guy? By the time he turns, let's say, oh, they're dating an older man. Oh, by the time he turns 45 or 50, he's all broke down. He's got gout. He's got all type of he's got all type of STDs. You know, he's got all these women, and then he's looking for some woman to take care of him. I did a show called "A Hospice Husband," where you had women talking like this. You know, all these broke down men wanting us queens, and then he's like, wait a minute, what are these queens? And the girl talking is she's obese. All right, she's got clothing on that does not fit her at all. Her mouth is saltier than anything in what she's saying. She's got on blue or green lipstick, something crazy, but
Yeah.
talking about a man. And then you're looking at her, you know that she's got high blood pressure. You know there's cholesterol that's running amok right about now. But yet you're sitting in here talking about, oh, when he gets to be this age, he's broke down. Okay, so you talk about down the road. Let's look at where you are right now. And
Right.
I hate when you get into those back and forth conversations. But the problem here is that when we start looking at the communication aspect, somebody always wants to get the last word in. It's always going to be that, but still, communication is still going to be the important aspect of it.
Oh,
So let's break
absolutely.
right there for a moment. And whoops, bear with me here. You still there, TC?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, just a second. My screen. There we go. We're back. Well, I'll make sure this is the last time that I'm going to use Firefox.
Wow.
But anyway, let me make sure the music is off. I think I already turned it off. And let's go ahead and take a look at some of the shorts that I put together previously. But I wanted to share this just so I made sure that anything that we may forget to bring up tonight, folks, if you want to, here's the share. You can always go back and take a look at that. All right, fair use, fair use. Let me know if you can or can't hear this. Looking back at my success in dating, can you hear that, TC?
Yeah. Hmm.
All right. For the years, I'll tell you right now, young man, your level of success will improve if you learn how to.
No sound now. You're muted. All
There you
right.
go. Yeah, let me go back for a second. So you said you weren't getting any sound.
No, no sound.
All right, just a second. So I think it's because of the tab. Stop this and do this over again. Share screen. All right, so I want to share screen one. All right, so here's the difference that I'm seeing here is that inside of Chrome, it gives you the option to where you can hit the button to where you can share the audio.
Oh, okay.
And that's what I'm seeing that's different here in Firefox. It's not giving me the ability to share the audio. And you know what? Let me try this one more time. Let me know if you can hear this, because maybe the way that Firefox works is if I turn my microphone off here in the application, that might be what prevents it from being heard. So let me do this again. Looking back at my success in dating over the years. Now, can you hear that without any
Yeah.
echo?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what I'll do, I'll just make sure I don't turn my mic off again. So let me try this again. I'll tell you right now, your level of success will improve if you learn how to talk to her as opposed to talking through it. One of the common issues that I notice see in pickup culture is that these guys are always chasing average women. And when they catch them, they're dealing with one of the physical cycle of situationships and entanglements. As I've said previously, a woman knows what she's looking for before she gets out of bed in the morning. And here's something else to add on to that. A woman will never be cold, broke, and lonely unless she chooses to be. But she can be cold, broke, and lonely based on how she chooses to behave. It would do you well, fellas, to understand this. Hey, take a woman's word for it. Her being on your page doesn't mean a damn thing. If you're not your back is on her mind, in order to snatch over man, she'll feel protected. Let me be clear about two things. I do not endorse pickup culture, nor will I defend unaccountable behavior that works to the detriment from your feminine image days. Take that into consideration. Ladies, there's nothing that we as men can take from you that's yours to give away should you not value the consequences of your decisions. In closing, make grown folk decisions that stand on business, 10 toes down. Once again, they always have to lie. Find somebody who knows somebody to tell somebody about what's going on here. If you like, look it up. Share if you do. And subscribe. This is what you're looking for. All right. So, questions from anybody? What do you got to say about that?
That's wild. You tell the truth, though. They don't. My thing is, I heard something today about why don't men treat women like they did back in the old days. That's what I heard. That's what I heard today. I was shocked. I was shocked when I heard that.
Oh, that's an easy answer, but by all means, what was your response here before we go any further?
You know, seeing that and agree is like, that's what needs to be said. You said everything that needed to be said. I couldn't have said no better. You hit the nail on the head right there.
So you feel that it pretty much covered everything that would be plausible nowadays?
Oh, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Now, I guess I say this all because this is what it used to be like for us. There was a level of continuity that always existed where everyone knew where the boundaries were in conversation.
Right.
But getting back to specifically that you just mentioned here, I guess somebody said, well, I wish men behaved like they used to back in the day. But the question is, then you need to behave like that type of woman that men show that type of affinity for. But when you make that statement, now this is where everything goes left. You have women, oh no, See, these women were slaves back then. My grandmother was a slave. my mother was a slave. You're not going to get me to be a slave. I'm not getting married because that's slavery.
Hmm.
And then the conversation this is what I was saying before, the conversation just dips. What do you mean it's slavery? But as I've said before, what is the title of the show? Choices made in relationships are consequences owned. If you feel that your relationship has become slavery, girl, you chose him. Now, as I said here, a woman will not be cold, broke, or lonely unless she chooses to be. But a woman will be cold, broke, or lonely based on how she chooses to behave. But regardless of how we see that, it's still a choice. Because as a woman, she knows who she's looking for when she gets up in the morning. If you get her time, you're either who she's looking for or you are an acceptable alternative until what she really wants comes along. But even then, you're still not sure. Reason being, it's all a gamble. And if you're not willing to put it all into the pot, what are you expecting to get out of it? You got to have some skin in the game. So going back to the point of if you say that, oh, well, why can't you men be like used to be to these type of women? Because we aren't seeing the type of women that used to be there who got that type of treatment. Now, I'm not out in the street having this conversation with anyone and everyone, but there's always going to be that one level of nuance or the extreme that people shoot for. So out of that conversation, oh, well, back then, all those women were slaves. Where do you get it from? And then, of course, now you get into the pick me's or the mammies. Oh, well, she just wants some guy to pick her. Oh, she's such a pick me. She's such a mammy. No, she's such a woman who understands that she wants to be married. Now, we're not saying that she's going to just give herself over to anybody just for the sake of trying to be in a relationship.
Right.
But still, there are women who know where they want to be and know whatever they've been doing, it's not working. What's that popular phrase? Oh, yeah, he's not cheating on her. He's just exercising his options. Now, when I first heard that statement from Kevin Samuels, this is about maybe 3 years ago. I didn't float with it then, and I don't float with it float with it now. Excuse me. I mean, really, the audacity. Oh, he's not cheating. He's just exercising options. So basically, what he's saying is that, oh no, it's not like he's cheating. He's just forcing you to sacrifice your integrity. And that's literally what it is. Because any woman who will sit there and let a guy say, hey, you know what? I know you're not doing too well, but I can take care of this. Your kid also. Hey, you want to go to Dubai or something? I'll fly you out there, but you got to understand you're not the only one. So if you're good with this, then hey, I'll swing by and we can do what we need to do, and then I'll keep you set up here. But you got to understand something. There better not be anybody else when I come by. Better yet, there better not be anyone else but me, because if I'm financing, this is my show. All right. So recognize that, if you don't see me, I may be out with somebody else, but don't call me just out of the blue and show up, anything like that, or this all is over. And I'm sitting here watching this, I'm thinking, God damn, there are guys out here who are saying, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's my dog. Remember, who was that brother? Your chick chose me. The Mac. Yeah, they used to call him the Mac. I can't remember the brother's name, but he was in Bill Bellamy's movie, How to Be a Player. And I remember him, it was the birthday scene. They were sitting out in the backyard. And I remember looking at the brother who was his uncle. So, oh, damn, that's the brother who played the Mac. And I don't know why I can't think of it to save my life. But if Rob or Marcus were still here, they'd probably be able to put a finger on it. But nonetheless, as I mentioned before, when you hear that type of statement, oh, well, he's just executing options. He's just using his options. He's not cheating. That's why I think about the man. You have the high value man and the man of value. So I look at it from the perspective, the high value man is exercising options, meaning that you're not the only one. So what you're saying is that she has to sacrifice her integrity to be with him. Whereas a man of value would say, you can be his one of many, or you can be my one of one.
Great.
So therefore, you've got a choice. Yeah, pretty Tony. Thanks, man. So therefore, it goes back again to choice. You have a choice that you can make. You can be this guy's one of many, or you can be his one of one. Now, to be this guy's one of one, he may not have all the money, he may not have all the flash and flare, but he still may meet some of those circumstances or parameters that she would look for. And remember, we talked about that the other night. The five senses: sight,
Mm-hmm.
sound, smell, taste, touch. If you get by that first one, which is sight, you're pretty much already in the house, because there's going to be that expectation that if she's going to show interest in you, that means that you are somebody that she can see herself waking up next to.
Mm-hmm.
And for the guy, it's going to be the same thing. Oh, hey, here we go. She must be through untangling that bun or something like that. We'll wait 15 seconds to see what she says about that. But yeah, one of one, please. Yeah, one of one. Now, the one of one, it is not popular. Matter of fact, some would call it a simp. Some would call this dude weak. He said, no, this is a guy who is intentional. He knows he's not trying to entertain everybody. He
Right.
wants one person just for him. And that's not a bad thing. That is not a bad thing at all. So, again, we're talking that communication aspect. But here, let's go ahead and let's check out the next bit I have here, because I got on a roll one night and I said, you know what? I want to get it all out. Fair use, even though it's mine. Ooh, let's turn this down just a little bit. Here's 3 pieces of advice that I had to share with everyone that's lived throughout your lifetime. Check it out. As a side of the believe this pickup art nonsense alone. All you can do is you got to have a situation shapes and hands. Let that as long as breeze. I don't know what the man chase, but look at you. By the way, you can still hear this, right?
Yeah.
All right, cool. However, if you are her type, well, she can be persuaded. I don't know too. Ladies, as men, we can't take from you what's yours to give at your discretion. Keep in mind, as a man, I can't take from you what's yours. All I can do is which one you should give it to, because I'm a salesman. But all this aside, it's always going to be your choice. Never be it. I don't agree. Girls, keep this in mind. But what I know is what she's looking for. If she gets out there anymore, if you gotta get her time, you find who she's looking for, or an acceptable alternative to what she wants to come along. Keep her approach to the best. It's a very simple rules to work. If you're not going about this today, let's say that it always makes you find somebody who knows how to trust somebody about what's going on. If you like it, let me know. Share it if you do, and subscribe. This is what you're looking for. That'll be there. There you go, Rob. Yeah, I got Crafty. I bought an 85 about a year or two ago. I'm never going back to anything smaller, as to say. All right. So, TC, your compliments, sir. Hopefully, you enjoyed that. But what's your thought process of what we just watched? What's your thought now?
Yeah, you have to have, like I said, the approach. You know, you have to know how to approach. You have to do that. To me, the approach and everything else that fall in the line. Before I approach, I know what I'm going to say. I got everything mapped out where I don't feel that I'm uncomfortable about what I'm going to say to her to try to win her over. You know.
Understood. So there's always got to be the approach you make, but nowadays you don't see the approach being done physically, meaning that they're directly out in front of you. You're always seeing that through some type of dating app or online or whatever, because it's not as detrimental to some people if it's done online as opposed to actually being in front of people. Now, we come from an age where we were outside, as again the kids like to say, where we actually walked up to someone, we had a conversation, we had to meet parents, or as we got older and we weren't dating in high school and we were actually dating someone who was off and living on their own,
Right.
let's say after college, or I was in the military, and I would go over to someone's dorm room if her roommate wasn't there, if she had a roommate, We sitting there chit chat for a little while, go out, have something to eat, check a movie. Maybe I get it to come back to my dorm. Hey, show's on.
Yes.
Right. And remember when you got older to whereas you had your own place. Now, I didn't have my own place per se until I was probably 27. And this is when I was stationed overseas in Ramstein, Germany. Shout out to the Ramstein crew, all right? Yeah, so we're talking about now where you've got your own place when you leave base. You're not going from one side of the base, maybe about a block or two, and then you go into the dorm room, which is like living in a college dorm. I'm talking about getting in my car and being able to drive about 8 to 10 miles out, German countryside, go into my apartment after I park, go upstairs. It's my space. I'm
Right.
on my own, doing my own thing. And then you call up a girl and like, hey, so what you got going on? Oh, nothing much. How about you? Well, I may go out and grab something to eat or something to drink at one of these local pubs or something like that. And then she said, well, you don't really have to go out there and do that. You can always come check me out and come over here. I'm like, well, what are you serving? And old girl be something like booty. And remember how the sweat song would come out? Girl, I've been thinking all day long. And yo, you just go in the song.
That's
Don't
right.
stop. Woo. Yes, sir. No, change your whole plan up in a minute. But again, that's that communication.
Right.
All right. So, second part, compromise. This is very, very important.
Yes.
Like we were discussing earlier, we can't always think that what we say is going to be top shelf. There may come a time to where my perspective may not fit the situation, or I'm not seeing things clearly. So if I'm not seeing things clearly, it's best not to take that approach where, well, I'm the leader. What I say goes.
Right.
There comes a time where I need to assess and realize if I don't have the answer, just say so. Because believe it or not, a good leader, not that we're trying to call ourselves that right now, but a good leader knows when he or she does not have the information to complete the task. That's where, as you look around the people who are with you and allow them the opportunity to solve the problem. So, what's your thought on compromise, TC?
Oh, absolutely. And I've done that many a time. I'll give I'll give you an example. She wanted to get a new vehicle. She asked me what I thought about it, and I was just very blunt. I'm like, "You're paying for it. I ain't. If that's what you want to do." And I said, "Why would you ask me?" She said, "Because I just wanted your opinion." And I said, "My honest opinion is you don't need one. I don't think you need one, but I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just saying." But she wanted to buy the damn thing anyway. So, regardless of what I said, she is still going. She was still going. She made up her mind. That's what she wanted to do. So I was good with it. And the other thing is, I ain't paying for it.
Well, yeah, and that's a good thing about having a lady who's got her own funds. I think I said this the other night. Hey, that means there's less money out of my pocket.
That's right.
Like you said, hey, I can't tell you what to do. It's your money.
Yes.
If this is what you want to do, then you go ahead and do it. But still, the thing is that when people run that by, it's because they've got you on their mind. They're thinking of a concern. Maybe she's thinking, well, what if I run short on some ends? Well, it's yours. You bought it. But if you're at a certain point in a relationship where there's cohabitation, where there is marriage, or there's been, let's say, even the engagement. At that point in time, when you start living together after you become engaged, then there's that level of commitment that's going to come with that, which means that some things that you might purchase, that may be something I need to consider. For example, if one of us loses our jobs, let's say I'm taking care of the roof, the power, the roof over our heads, which is a mortgage, the water. So what is this she's going to take care of? I think the question that I posed to everybody one night is, does a man save more money being single as opposed to a woman saving more money when she's in a relationship? So the answer was the woman saves more money because in a relationship, she doesn't have to spend as much if the guy is, again, considered to be the provider. The roof, the water, the electric, all those stuff, that's going to be on him. She might take care of cable, Maybe there
Right.
might be incidentals, but at some point in time, both of you still need to be putting some money together that's going to be a group account. Because I think that whatever I came into the relationship with, if we're talking finances, that was my money. Whatever you came before, that was your money. So I
Right.
should not be looking to be in your account
Right.
just because of the fact we're together. That's what kills me when I hear people say, well, once you come together, then everything you have is shared. Okay, and that's where you had some of the problems, or a lot of the
Yeah.
problems we saw here, because of the fact that if there was no prenuptial and everyone seems to think everything will work out and things go sideways, well, you are married, so therefore there's the entitlement to have. You get all that conversation.
Yeah.
So again, me, as I said before, if I ever got married again, oh, there's going to be a prenup up front. Best
Absolutely.
believe that. And it's not to say that I don't love you. It's simply saying that we don't know what's going to happen. Things
Mm.
happen, things change, and I'm not going to act as if everything is always for the best. But in the event, this is like insurance, in the event that things do go sideways, I want to make sure that what you came to the relationship is yours. What I came to the relationship is mine. But what we built together, that is what we're going to look at being part of dividends. Your thought?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. I mean, even when I lost my job because of what I'm going through, I never got no backlash. I didn't get where what are we gonna do? Um, I just by the grace of God, everything worked out. She didn't complain or nothing. I didn't get no pushback on anything. You know, the thing was we're gonna do this together, we're in this together, and that's what we're gonna do. No argument or nothing. I didn't get anything. So actually, she's the
Those
breadwinner because she's still working. She's actually the breadwinner now because she's still working. I'm not, But I mean, I still, like I said, I still get a check every month and pay half the bills, and she'll pay the other half, and that's how we work that out.
shout out Mrs. OG. I gotta say it
Yeah,
again. Put it out there.
she's one of a kind. I lucked out. I'm telling you. Every day I think about that. It's like, man, what would I be without this woman? I don't know.
Man, if y'all were part of this group that's out here right now, and Rob will tell you, if you got the guy and the gal living in the house, and let's say they're going 50-50, and again, as I said before, anyone over the age of 35, if you're living in a situation where you have to go 50-50, you may have to look back at what are these choices that you've made for yourself. And what are we talking about tonight? Choices are consequences owned, right?
Mhm.
If I am 35 or 40 years old and I have to go 50-50, and we're talking like in a relationship. Now, there's many examples where you may see that, but we're just talking for an example of two people involved. We're not talking about someone who's renting rooms or something like that. Now, we're talking about a relationship where we've got conjugal visits
Mhm.
under the same roof, right? I heard someone make a comment a couple of days ago that marriage is, it's like a business, and I think that's where I used to make where I did make my mistake in my now defunct marriage. That was about 15 years ago.
Mhm.
I would always make the statement, marriage is a business, and if marriage is business, then management has to make business decisions. So I had to fire my chief operating officer, which yeah, being stupid, making jokes like that.
Right.
After I supposedly under the same context, the pretext of marriage being a business, after I fired her, I noticed that the operation wasn't running smoothly as it used to a certain degree. Even though there were arguments and things of that nature, there were certain things that did not run properly. And
Right.
I tell people when it comes to relationships, just to flip this back here, that your significant other is not your friend, is not your pal, is not your buddy, and should not be your partner. This also has a lot to do with choices as well as consequences. Because when you start making choices in your significant other, you've got to make it clear ahead of time. You've got to make sure there's a conversation head up front about what the expectations are. So 50-50. When you have people living in that type of arrangement, if he loses his job, and it's his house. I've seen clips, some are skits, some are an actual setups where she says, you know what? This is your house. You can't afford it. Well, I need to go get up and go. I mean, I'm not taking care of this. But as long as he's got his job and everything's good under the roof, remember we said that men save money better by themselves. However, in a relationship, he doesn't save as much, but she does all her saving.
Right.
She's able to save money inside of the relationship. Now, I'm not saying yay, nay, good or bad, but that's just what the situation turns into. And you heard Rob just a moment ago said, if anyone lives with me, she's paying at least 75% of the rent. If you missed that, his S was off there, but I knew what he meant. But the thing here is that when you have a 50-50 situationship and he is the person who's in charge of the crib and keeping the roof over the head, hell, she can just move out and leave.
Yeah.
So that's why I tell people when you're in a 50-50 situation, that means that you are half in and half out of the relationship. There's no real full commitment. And that means that you've got a partner or you got a roommate for the most part. And then worse yet, as I said before, as your significant other, I'm not your friend, I'm not your pal, I'm not your buddy. Because what happens when you get upset with your friend? We've seen this. What happens when people get upset with friends? Well, they stop calling, or if I see you on the street before you see me, well, yeah, I may take off or I'll just avoid you altogether. If the phone rings, I may put the phone down, and I may be, screaming something like that, but eventually you break apart.
Right.
I want what I showed up with, no more, no less. There you go. There you go. But you have that issue now, whereas if that's your friend, oh, so much. But if you want to treat your relationship like a business, what sometimes happens with business partners? Don't they sometimes fall out?
Yep.
And when they fall out, one of them may sue the other or try and buy you out. Well, no, I'm not letting you have this. Then you've got a straight mess. So therefore, that's why I make sure that I make it known I'm not your friend, I'm not your pal, I'm not your buddy. If the relationship gets to a certain area, because the consequence of not making that known is that either one or both of us are going to suffer in some way for this, especially if we've got a cohabitation situation, whereas we're not married, but I'm supporting the bills, which is my place. But if I've got to a point to where I can't keep it and I've got to bring somebody else in, you're going to run into that situation where we're going to have this argument one day. What if things go short with me? Well, you know what? I guess I'm just going to go ahead and head out. Well, what about, what? We ain't married. You can't keep the roof over your head. I'm not going to pay it.
Yeah.
That's how it goes down. That's why I say that a marriage is not a business. It is a commitment. But you had something to say, TC?
I know about that because when I got divorced, I just moved my stuff out and left the house because I knew it was going to be a battle. So what I did was my mother and I sat down and had a long talk. And at the end of that talk, he told me, you're not going to put my grandson out in the street, which means if you got to come here for the time being till you get your own place, you do that. But you're not putting my grandchild out in the street. And if you do that, and then she told me, and if you do that, don't come here. So, so it worked out because I didn't push back or nothing. I said, that's what you want to do. And it ended up, look, we're friends. So I didn't cause no waves or nothing. I just did what had to be done, and that was that. I took a loss, and I said, you know what? It's a material thing. I can always get another home. That's the way I looked at it. So here I am.
Well, I just realized while we're having this good conversation here, I forgot. Here we go. I've got one last one, fair use, that I wanted to share here. Now, this one is silly. Now, remember the consequences where these young guys or these older guys would be dating these younger women?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I wish Dwight was here because he could actually add to this. But he's got a test tomorrow. Yep, there you go. The key is not to upgrade your living arrangements after she moves in. Exactly right. Because just because you're dependent on that new money that's coming in, what if something? What if she loses her job? Well, oh girl, well, you can still stay here. Now she knows that she can stay with you if she loses her job,
Right.
because most guys are not going to let a girl live with them unless, hey, we're going to go someplace. Not too often will you have a female move into where you just buddies and you just cool, and then you bringing other women over and she's going to get flipped out or whatever. Now, if she's in there, it's because you're expected to be with her. But if she loses her job, hey, it's no big deal. I'll still do what I need to do. I'll just cut down on the extra nights out. I'll cut down on what I'm eating and drinking when I'm going out, and we'll be
Right.
all right. Let you lose the job and you the person. Not my
Mhm.
place. Now, I don't want to see that I'm going to the extremes, but these are the situations that I would normally see. Now, it does not normally mean to whereas you get a Mrs. OG. And you know what,
Yeah.
baby? You sorry, baby, I got this. That's what we're talking about. That is that business right there, whereas she's got you no matter what.
Mhm.
So check this out, folks. Fair use, fair use.
A bit afraid, I'm just trying to be made. Strange. What you trying to say? Tell me what's your age. What am I doing?
Look at this. Giving up that cash. Yeah, were you able to hear that? Oh, TC, you're on mute. Oh, okay. Yes, TC man stepped away for a second.
I remember seeing that.
Yeah, it just came across earlier today, and I thought, you know what, this would be perfect to play in here about choices made, because I recall back when I was at Bentwaters, not Bentwaters, I'm sorry, back at Ramstein, and this is why I was saying I wish Dwight was here, because there's a brother we knew. I'll just say his name was Q. Q was about the same age we were. We were all maybe about 28, 29. Q might have been a year or two older than us. I'll say Q may have been 30. But Q married this younger girl who was about 20, 22, 23. So she was almost 10 years younger than him. This was his wife. Now, unbeknownst to me at the time, his wife was getting around with other folks on the yard. Now, when we live in a military installation, it's not a small place per se. Now, Ramstein is like a little city overseas.
Mhm.
So we're talking about your Burger King, you've got Chili's, you've got a lot of things nowadays that it's like being back in a small city. Now it was smaller back in the 90s, but it was still huge. Now it's even larger per se. And again, this is over in Germany. So anyway, Q's wife heard about it. Q's wife was messing around with one of the dudes on the yard. So I didn't know this at the time, but one of the dudes, now notice I say one of the dudes he was messing with was one of my boys. I'll just call him E. Now, E was just low down. I love him to death. That was my dude. But E was that type of dude who will hang out with a guy who he works with, talk with him, break bread with him and his wife. And then when my man is gone, E's hitting his wife. I'm like, E, are you serious? He said, hey, bro, it's not me. It's just how life is, man. It's just how it is.
Damn.
I heard y'all running through this woman over there. You know what? I'm grown now. Yeah, we did it. I'm sitting here and tell a lie. Yeah, I was over there making a mess of things in my younger days. I got it out before I was married. All right, Alicia, I've done bad things in my life.
That's good.
I made sure I got it out because Mrs. Henry, right? I met her when I was in Germany. Like I said, she was German, but I'd done all this mess before I put a ring on her finger back in the day.
Hmm.
Yeah, see that was my disclaimer. Yeah, so yeah, I'm not getting down like that nowadays because, as I said before, I'm not trying to waste all this money running up and down the interstate. Not to mention, I was hella lazy back then. I'm even worse now. Yeah, it's no. If you find that one watering spot where you can kick your feet up, why do I need to have 3 or 4 different others? I've already proved, as I've said before, I've gone in my youth a whole week different lady.
Mm-hmm.
That's nothing that I'll brag about, but damn it, I did it. But once you get that type of stuff out of your system anymore, it's not about the hunt at that point.
Right.
Because that was the main thing that used to have us out there out on the streets. It was always the thrill of the chase.
Yep.
But when you get to a point to whereas you start getting played out yourself the way you used to play others, you develop a different perspective of what you're doing. Hence why I can have this conversation now because I've done dirt and I've had dirt done to me.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing, getting back to Q's thing, is that I knew one dude that was messing with Q's wife, my own boy. And then come to find out from E, there was another dude on the yard she was working with.
Oh man.
And I knew him also. And eventually it got back to Q, but I don't think he found out while they were in Germany. I think they went back to the States. And then she really got, well, I don't need to be with you anymore. I'm good, I'm take care of myself because she was basking in her youth, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So a couple of years went by, and all the phone calls, all the attention that she was getting, it stopped coming. Remember, we talked about a woman will be cold, broken, lonely based on how she chooses, but she can
Oh
be
yeah.
cold, broken, lonely based on how she chooses to behave.
Mm-hmm.
She was the epitome of this. She started getting into her late 20s and 30s, and Q had already divorced her probably when she was like 27 or 28, when she was still acting up. And he had moved on, but now she's calling back trying to get his attention, not realize that he's done with it. But the issue that I tell folks that you got to be considerate about in this video that we were just watching was joking about it. You mess around with these young girls, you need to put yourself in a situation to understand that if she is just your side thing, you better make it clear where it sits. Because if you start dating her and she ends up being your lady,
Right.
you're the older dude in the situation. Just because you feel like laying up one night, maybe she may not want to lay up. Oh, I'm gonna go out with my girls. Okay, so she's going out with her single girlfriends. Now she's married, but she's still hanging out with her single girlfriends.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we think the worst of it. What do we think we know is going to happen if you've got a young wife hanging out with her young single girlfriends?
Hmm.
Yeah, she may find her way to a young dude.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you're confident in what you've got and you know it's not like it or you believe it's not like it, you're not going to worry about it. But again, she knows what she's looking for when she wakes up in the morning. If you got her attention, you're what she wants, or you're an acceptable alternative, even if you're married in some situations I've seen, you thought you were safe. That doesn't mean that you may not be on him also, right? But sometimes I say you never really know unless you got that type of connection that she can't hide anything from you. You can't hide anything from her because you guys are that type of connected.
Mm-hmm.
But as I said before in another video, I'll say it again, I would never do to anyone at that age that I did not want done to me. So when I was 20 something, I had an older girl who was about 30. Karen was 32, I was 22. And she had 2 boys. And her dude, I want to say I was probably already a bit waters. Her dude had been messing around on her and also abusive. So
Wow.
he was out of the house. He was living someplace else. So I'm like, well, hey, I guess I'll swing by. she gave me the invite. Not to mention, I'm 22. She's 32. I know I'm not here forever, but I'm going to get in where I can fit in. So it is odd coming to a house where you dating a woman who's got kids. You're only 22. You're in a different country. You got money. You got transportation. You can get around. So this is what I said before. I had a lot of girls I was dealing with who had kids, because if I happened to want to go out someplace and I didn't want her following my game or whatnot, if she had kids, she can't go. Better yet, I can check. Oh, you couldn't get a babysitter? No. Oh, okay. I'll catch up with you some other time. And I'd head out with somebody else.
Yeah, basically like me. That's what I used to do.
You've already forgiven me for this, Alicia.
Yeah.
Got to make sure the team is good here. Yes, I've done this. But past, all right? Past. Nonetheless, you're going to have that, to whereas I was not trying to get locked down with someone who had kids. I remember her crying on the sofa one night. I thought we were going to be together forever. I'm like, in my mind, like, no, of course not. But on the outside, well, we can always see what happens in the future.
Yeah, ain't nothing forever.
Yep. I got what I was after and got up and left in the morning.
That's right. I'm just here. I'm just here for a short time, not a long time.
Yeah, I'm just here for a minute. And that's what I can remember my youth being like.
Yeah.
Just get in where you go. And we make those mistakes. Now, I don't know whatever happened after she and I broke up. But as I said before, I was not trying to be that older dude with that young chick. I was not trying to be that. And Q was that person. Yeah. So going on with the last part of B, I know we were stretched out, said that we weren't going to do that, but you know what? We got life between the two of us. Between your 69 years, my 55, we got over 100-something years of experience here. So, hey, it's going to spill out, obviously, right? Yeah. So, CCB, communication, compromise, and here's the last thing, balance. Notice again, I'm saying I'm leaving out power, because if I say balance of power, now there's this issue again. We got a power struggle. But when I say balance, we have to understand that when I have my moods, she has her moods, or financially, emotionally, however you want to put it out here, we've got to find some type of even kill. One of us or both of us are going to have to push something to the side so we can maintain some type of stability in the relationship. So on the premise of balance, what would you have to add to that, Top Cat?
Oh, yeah. I mean, when I couldn't work anymore, I was thinking about how we're going to do this, what do I have to cut back on, what I have to do. So what I did was I got rid of everything. I got rid of my truck. I got a motorcycle. I sold everything because that was kind of extra debt. To balance things out, I had to make the sacrifice that I needed to make sure we was good, So basically, it was all on me because I carried. It was my load to carry. So once I got through all that and got rid of all that, everything pretty much balanced out, and we could figure out where we're going to go from there. So it worked out.
My responsibility, my choice, my consequence, my solution is what I'm hearing. You had a solution. And I think, what was it? Where did she say? Here we go. That's what Alicia said. Time to downsize.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. With my situation, I had to, 26,000. And I had
a hog or something like that.
Yeah, I had a 2013 Fat Boy. I'll have to send you some pictures because I still got them. I had 4 of them. I own 4 Harleys. I own 4 of them. I own one, keep it for a while, trade it in, and I move up. So the last one was the best one. And I heard a lot of feelings with that bike, but I had intentions. It's like God said, this is the last hurrah. Go for it. And that's what I did. I pulled out the stops and I had it all souped up a little bit. Them white boys couldn't keep up.
Saddlebags and all that on the side?
No, I didn't have no saddlebag. It was more or less that's what they call a soft tail. It was a soft tail, and then they had a hard tail, but it was the soft tail. So at that time when that bike come out, it was very low to the ground, which is what I wanted. I wanted something low to the ground where I could plant my feet firmly on the ground And I could hold that bike between my legs and stand up, and it would never move. But I said I have to do something to really put it out there. And I went and spent all that money, had the motor souped up and everything, put pipes on and everything. Man, I'm telling you what, I miss it, and she misses it, but I enjoyed it. But I had to do what I had to do. And it didn't bother me one bit because I knew that something was coming up and I was going to be faced with something. So I said, I have to do this. And then look what happened. So I got rid of it, rid of that stuff at the right time. But I enjoyed it.
Robert said, when I got sick, I just stopped dating because I inherited my illness. I just bowed out. Oh, and here's what Alicia said about his bike. It's just a thing. Woman, shame on you. But yeah, I get it. Depending on the situation, you're right. It is just a thing. However, now my thing wasn't two-wheelers. I'm always about my cars. Right. So my big thing has always been vehicles. The first car that I ever bought was a 1987 Isuzu iMark. It was like a little four-door, and it had that little exhaust turbo on it. The American version of it was a Chevrolet Spectrum.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I had that car for maybe about 3 or 4 years. I wrecked it enough that I left it in England once I got it fixed. I think I hit a deer one night coming back from a club doing 90 miles an hour. I just broke down to 70, hit the deer, like deer asses flying. I'm lucky it didn't come back into the windshield as fast as I was going. Yeah, I can put myself in my library. Yeah, I'm lucky it didn't come through the car. So I would rather hit something in a car rather than on a bike, but nonetheless, it was expensive trying to get that car built back to the way it was. I bought it back, tried to fix it, but the engine was damaged. So you'd go about maybe 30 or 40 minutes, and then oil would start getting onto the spark plugs. It was just a mess. I got rid of that car. I got to Germany. I had the Opel Cadets. You had little GSIs, these little 4 cylinders that can do 130, 140 miles an hour. I ran through about 2 of those. I wrecked the first one, black ice. Then the second one, the engine block exploded. I had a Turkish guy who sold me some junk. And I didn't see that because he cleaned the engine off, put in fresh oil. So I didn't see that the block was cracked. Yeah, but he got me. I intentionally did not have kids because I did not want to pass on my illnesses, both that and the lack of money. So yeah, you got some folks like Rob was saying, you look at if you're predisposed for illness, is this something that you want to pass on and not have others dealing with that? In my family, I know cancer, this is my father's side, kidney disease is something that would either hit a generation or would skip a generation. So my brother and I got lucky where it skipped over us. But I've had a couple of my uncles who've been hit with that. So yes, though I can see why people would not want to date because of those things.
Right.
But as I was saying, getting back to what I'm saying here, I've done these things. I've had issues with life itself. Again, looking at cars and possessions and what am I going to give up if things don't work out. I've had it to whereas now I've got, once I got out of the military and I could actually buy the cars I wanted, I've got an old 2004 SO55 AMG Mercedes. These are the ones that have the top that goes back.
Oh, yeah.
It goes from a hard top to a convertible. Yes. Yeah, there have been some times whereas I was laid off when I first got out of the military where I thought I'm going to have to give up this car. And I told myself, you know what? No, this is what I work for. I want this. I'll find a way to make it work. But the other thing is that I've been single majority of my adult life. Now, that's the difference that I have that most people may not have dealt with. Therefore, I take more chances than most folks because it's just myself and that dog on the other side of the door. So I'll do a few more things that a guy with a family will not do.
Right.
So now here's where I am now. I'm 55. After my marriage, I had a few relationships here and there. And well, I'm not 55 yet, but about the week after next, I will be. But I'm still going.
Right.
I tell folks that some days it gets boring being on your own. I hear guys talk about, man, I would love to have your life. Like, would you? But it's always the grass is greener when you stop and take a look at what somebody else has versus doesn't. I get bored being my own dude. I'm not gonna tell you that. I would not sit here and tell that lie. Now you meet a woman, whereas you can make things work, and you know there's going to be something in it. You start getting more comfortable. In the meeting stages where you meet each other, you don't publicize to everybody, hey, I met so and so, I'm seeing something or seeing somebody, because you don't know if it's going to work. So
Right.
you don't want to make that choice to make it too soon, because if you do and things go down, the consequence is, damn, I've sat here and just made it known that I'm out here doing my own thing again, and now I'm not.
Right.
So you don't want to advertise until you know things are working out. So when was it where you knew that it was going to work between you and Mrs. OG?
Oh man, that has to be. I have to say 2 years that I really started to focus in on us doing things in this house because it needed a lot of upgrading. On man, let me tell you something, John. I put a roof on here. I put 24 windows in here. Um, I put a new furnace in here. We have a boiler, like you know how the houses have boilers instead of a regular furnace. Well, it's an actual boiler, and we have like radiator heat. It's an old house. Man, the money it went over my head about the money to spend. I didn't worry about the money. It was about the necessity and about having, making sure everything's good in here. So I really didn't worry about that once we got together. And after that, she would always go out and buy me clothes. Imagine that. She would go through my drawers and everything, see if I needed underwear, t-shirts, and all that. She did all that. I didn't do none of that. She actually go to the store and buy my clothes. And I would always tell her, why do you do that? I don't need nothing. Just you do. I went through your stuff. Okay. So I went through the flowers a bit and chocolate covered strawberries and all that. So I've gotten so used to what she likes and what she don't like. After that, it's a piece of cake, So now I feel bad because now we have to spend the rest of our lives together with her, for us taking care of each other. But I'm kind of in worse shape than she is. But I try to just not talk about it, and I try to keep myself entertained and just be here as long as I can with us together. And that's the way I looked at it from in on there. And then the years start piling up. I even forgot. I lost count because she would remind me. She said, "How many years?" I said, "What do you mean, how many years? How many years been together?" She knows. She writes that stuff down. She does. And I was like, look, I know I'm 69 years old. I ain't senile yet, but there's some things that I just not forget about. But I got to focus so much on my health now that I just kind of, if it's not that important, I know that's important. But if it's not that important, I don't worry about it. That's why. That's why I tell her.
You are the winningest dude out here right about now, TC.
I just tell her now when people say something to me and my son, and I told my son the other day, he was there. He said, "Dad, what do you think?" I said, "I don't give a f about nothing." When you've been there and done that, like I did, and I'm 69 years old, I've been there and done that. So what else do you have to prove? Same as you. You'll be 55 years old. You ain't got nothing to prove to nobody because you already been down that road. So I tell my son, I said, "You need to listen to John. You need to get on there. I have to give you the leap. And you come in there and listen to what we have to say, and then you'll understand what I've been trying to tell you all them years about relationships and how to go out about living your life, And that's all I've reminded him about is about how to move out here and keep yourself safe, and especially with women because my son's like me. That's a bad thing. That's a bad thing, boy. That's why I didn't name you after me, because I did too much stuff out there, man. But no, I think she's good for me. The 22 years, I'm like, hey.
I will say it again, Top Cat, you be winning. Well, I look around here and I've taken almost 2 hours of your time away from you, sir. But as I said before, between the two of us, we've got over 100 some odd years of experience in life lived here. And whenever we get realer to get some time back in here, that number just goes up and we go a little bit longer. But final thoughts, what do you have here for the show, sir?
No, I enjoy this because if it entertains Mrs. OG and she's interested, and right now she's at her, she went to visit her daughter, and it's good. But you know what? I have my own piece here. I have my little man cave in the basement. She don't bother me. She don't go around my stuff. She don't question me. All she says is either when's John coming on, when's Fatty coming on, and when somebody's going who's going live. I said, what's the matter? She's like, I'm bored because she's used to seeing it. You see what I'm saying? So when I hear that, and this woman is locked in on this, she's locked in on what I'm doing. You see what I'm saying? And a lot of women want their own thing, but she figured, you know what? I did all that. Just let me sit back and enjoy what he's doing. And she don't have a problem. So, you know, I'm good. I enjoy you. Everything you're doing, I appreciate it. And hey, I appreciate being one of the OGs, and
Appreciate you coming by, man, being a part of it.
you'll get there. Hey, John, trust me. I've been in your shoes about not being with nobody. It's going to happen, but it's going to happen when you least expect it. Trust me, I'm telling you, it's going to happen. It's going to happen to you. Watch. That shit going to hit you like 10 ton of bricks.
I'll give it some more time. I'm not dead yet. What I will say, I guess, for my last thoughts is on the topic here. Again, choices are going to be something that you're going to live with. And I realized earlier in life, I made some choices that have affected to where I am right about now. But then I also looked at the choices that I've made, like we talked about in marriage, where I could have done some things different. I could have sustained. She could have made different choices, but it's over and done with. The past is past. Now we move forward because we're no longer a certain age, whereas we can recover and get up and go back and do it again. The older you get, the harder it is to readjust after you've gotten through caring about somebody, because now you have to take some time to get past that, get over it, make sure that whatever comes next, you can't be looking backwards. As comfortable and familiar as it is, you have to make a conscious choice to not always want to make a repeat. When you're younger, and I think the expression is spin the block, you may turn around and realize, you know what, I could have done something better. But when you spin the block and you have the conversations that you had 15 or 20 years ago, and you're still getting the same response where there's discord, it's time to leave it and go forward. So that's what I'm trying to do going forward right now, leaving whatever it is that I've done before. If I've not seen improvement, then it's time to do something different. And that's what I'll say to everyone here. Choices made in relationships are consequences owned, and you will always own the outcome. Value has no worth unless it's agreed upon, because you get what you qualify for. All right, so here we go.
I'm gonna say there's a artist by the name of Gary Moore, and he recorded this song that I still got the blues for you. I want to tell you something. I'll tell you something, man. I start playing that, start thinking, but it's about a relationship. It's like being divorced, and you still, even though they'll work out, you still got something in your heart, some part of your heart that just still, it's still there. You know, I'm saying, I feel that way about my ex. And I said to my son, I'm gonna always love your mother, and I don't want you to ever forget about that, because that's your mother, and that's the way I feel in my heart. You know, so it's just the way I am. Oh.
There's always something that's left over, but you remember that it was good when it's good, but when it's over, it's over.
Yes.
It's time to move forward.
Yep.
So like I said, folks, Find somebody who knows somebody to tell somebody about what we've got going on right about now. If you like it, let us know. Share it if you do. And subscribe if this is what you're looking for. As always, TC, John Henry, thank you for joining us. Wisdom, also Robert Platinum. Thanks for jumping in, folks. Always appreciate the extras. We'll see you next time. And we out.
We out.